Another aspect I wanted to bring up is that this gets lauded as the smart, gritty one, the one that speaks truth to power, the one that understands fascism and authoritarianism and oppression. And I wish some of the writers had cracked a book before they wrote this.
Why'd you say that?
The history of fascism and authoritarianism, it's not like I'm an expert, but it's a hobby, right? And I try to understand this stuff because I consider it like the failure state of societies, right? This is what happens when societies break. And understanding how it happens and how it can get its grip on people and how that is contrasted with how destructive it is really interesting to me. I'm not impressed by what this is saying about why fascism works and why it appeals to people and how it controls people and how its power structures work. And a show like this wants to do this. I think a global war on terror metaphor is 20 years too late. This is not especially current or topical. Like today we have other stuff going on. And, there's a certain time lag built into making a show like this. But even like 2 years ago, there was other stuff going on that you could have used as a basis for a story about this. The way the empire operates does not connect to the way I understand like fascists actually operating. I did not feel like, oh yeah, this is how it goes.
Is your issue more with the show or the people? Because I know you mentioned at the start it was like people were sort of praising it for it. I don't know whether any of this, not cast, but like producers or writers came out and sort of kind of like talked about it or mentioned it. But I don't know. It feels like you're giving the show a little bit of a hard time for it. But I don't know whether it was their sort of complete true intention to sort of completely sort of portray sort of fascism in this universe. Because again, I know people are praising it for it, but it could not be the show's fault, and it could just be like the way that people took away from it.
I think it's definitely how the show wants to be perceived, and that's in the marketing and in the presentation, and it's also in the discourse, right? If this was simply, a plucky band of rebels fighting against stormtroopers, then I think I would have much lower standards. But because this is presented as the smart one, the gritty one, the realistic one, I reserve the right to ask the question, really, is it? And when I do, not much comes up is my problem, right? So just as one example, right? So if I was writing a story about fascism, like one of the principles that fascism operates by is that the rules only apply to you. They don't apply to them. And the rules are constructed in such a way that you have to break them. And so when they want to get rid of you, they can hang you with the rules you've broken, but everybody has to break the rules. So, for example, corruption is illegal in fascism, but it's expected. You have to bribe people, otherwise you will not get what you need. Never mind what you want, what you need. And then if somebody wants to get rid of you, they can charge you with bribery and corruption. Like that's an example of how that works, right? So throughout, we're constantly seeing kind of like a reference to kind of the rules and to laws and all of this. But those are supposed to be a farce in fascism. That is something that should have kind of been, I think, more front and center, because that's a really important thing to get. The laws are tools for a fascist regime, but they are not actually the rules by which society functions.